But anyway, I guess one of the best places to get kick-started on this conversation would be something that I've been literally dying to talk about on this podcast, and we haven't broached it like in full yet, which would be the most recent interview that Bernie Sanders did with Krystal Ball.
Gavin, I'm gonna have to take down this Bernie poster. I'm gonna have to take it down. You know what? It's coming down. It's coming. I'm done. I'm done, Bernie. Sorry, Bernie, but it's coming down.
Oh no,
it's coming down. We're done. We're done. We can't do this anymore. Not after what he just did. We can't do this anymore. Sorry, Bernie. Yeah. Sorry, Bernie. I'm done. I'm done. With
a little bit of context for this too. You know, I obviously you were super disappointed. Obviously we were too. But you know, Zach and I were actually just kind of praising Bernie not even like a week or so ago as far as these infrastructure negotiations, talking about like how gangster it was that he said it at 6 trillion and then worked his way down to like 3.5. Like we were like, maybe playing the inside game is paying off, all that kind of bullshit. Then this interview drops. Obviously, shout out to the great Krystal Ball over at Breaking Points and Kyle Kulinski and friends. But yeah, needless to say, Bernie's answers were not up to snuff, at least in my opinion. And it seems like a lot of people have had a similar reaction. But let's take a look at a little bit of this to see exactly what Krystal asked him and how he answered. But I thought this was very revealing.
Whatever reason, Biden came into office and he looked around him and he said, you know what? Climate is an existential threat. We have got to deal with it. Yes, the working class has been decimated for decades now. We have got to address that. So what he did that no president, and you correct me if you think I'm misstating this, what he did said, well, we're going to spend 3% more here and 5% more there. What he said, these are the issues. We are going to deal with the needs of the children. We are going to deal with the needs of the elderly. We are going to deal with climate. We are going to deal with paid family and medical leave. We are going to deal with housing. Virtually every major crisis that we are facing, he is prepared to deal with. I have not seen a president in my lifetime who has done that. Am I wrong?
I see that perspective, but I also see a president who's willing to let a lot of those agenda items be killed by the filibuster and the parliamentarian. Right.
Well, but again, I don't want to defend him. I think the point you made a few minutes ago is exactly right. In this critical moment, when we're dealing with the future of the planet, when we're dealing with the future of democracy, you know what? I think majority should rule and not the. I believe that strongly. But don't think that he can snap his fingers, no matter what he may or may not believe, and make things happen. All right, there are senators.
There are certain things he could do, though, through executive act. For example, canceling student debt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There are things he can
legalizing marijuana.
Yes.
He could potentially do through an executive order. And so there hasn't been a willingness, even though he says, yes, I support the $15 minimum wage. Yes, I support the PRO Act, to use all the tools that are at his disposal to actually make those things happen.
You're absolutely sure of that.
Is that fair?
No. I mean, in other words, you do not know about the discussions that he has with people who walk into his office. Okay. No, it's wrong to assume that when you're dealing with a United States senator who does not want to end the filibuster, that he can go in there and say, hey, I want you to do that. No. So don't give the president...
Although he could do what you proposed. When you were asked on the trail, how would you deal with Senator Manchin? You said, I'd go to West Virginia. I'd do the rally. Yeah. I'd call him out.
Right. I mean, there are things you could do. All that I'm saying, do not minimize. I mean, and I don't want to get into personalities, but
sure,
any member of the United States Senate has the power to kill this thing. And to think that the president alone can change that is not 100% correct.
Sure. But there are executive actions that he could take on student debt and other things that he could do. We can agree on that.
I am not, yes. Joe Biden and I, marijuana, I think the war on drugs has been just a disaster for this country, for the African-American community. I think it should end. I think marijuana should be legalized. You're right. We do that fairly simply. So we have differences. But on this piece of legislation, at the end of the day, if we are successful, this will be a major, major achievement.
So Bernie Sanders, the simp machine. What the fuck? That was crazy. So sorry. That was absolutely shocking to me. You can call me naive. You can call me triggered, whatever the fuck. I expected more from Bernie Sanders. People have been like, he showed you who he is a million times. I still expected more from him than to just come in here and swat down any good point that Krystal made as just something frivolous, reading his own a recipe back to him essentially, and having him just be, well, okay, let's not talk about that anymore because you made a bunch of good points that I agree with. Okay, so let's talk about something else. Let's talk about this. And then it's just like, it's horseshit. It's complete horseshit because there's no pushing Joe Biden left. There's no holding him accountable. There's absolutely nothing. So, I mean, I don't even, I'll pass the torch.
Yeah, you know me. I'm always glad to jump in. I mean, one, that was a great Bernie impression. I gotta say that was spot on there. But I mean, one, he opens it up by talking about how these, climate is an existential crisis. This existential threat that we have, that we're facing. And here Joe Biden stands with all this authority. And he's just sitting here making excuses for Biden. Krystal, and shout out to Krystal in this interview because I think she did a good job pushing back. It's not always easy to do. As somebody that has done interviews as well at this point, it's in the moment it is very hard. You got a list of questions you want to ask, and then you're trying to also listen to everything that they're saying and try to push back, and so it's very difficult to do. Anyone that like comments on the way that people interview, should
especially
try
a
it themselves.
Figure like Bernie Sanders. Every single person in this field has some sort of feeling for Bernie Sanders. It makes it harder, and she did a great job.
Absolutely, that cannot be understated. It is much more difficult to challenge somebody that you like, that you respect, that you have hold in high esteem, really. And so I think that what she did there, with the pushback was solid. To call that into question, and he just completely BS that. Like when she was like, well, what about the things that he can do through executive orders? And in his response is like, oh, no, like you can't say that. He is doing everything that he can do. No, she just read you a list of things that he absolutely could do, that he wakes up every single day and decides not to. He wakes up every single day and decides not to decriminalize marijuana in this country. He wakes up every single day and decides not to cancel student loan debt. So the idea that he is doing everything that he can, or in trying to go and blame this on some single members of Congress as if they have more power, so they apparently can institute their agenda because, as a single member of Congress. Nobody was saying that when Donald Trump was president. Nobody was talking. We were all told Donald Trump is president. The world is going to be on fire. Like everything, everything's a crisis, and nobody ever talks about, one person from his party could somehow tank his agenda. No, you can't. Not if you do what Krystal said, which is what Bernie said he would do, which is to go to their states, show up in their states, go there, campaign against them, rally against them. Why weren't they doing rallies? They could have been doing online rallies even during the pandemic, could have been holding online rallies, or, even showing up and doing physical rallies, but having an online element to it, all around the country, and inviting people in and talking about and campaigning on the same things that he campaigned on, $15 minimum wage. You can't say you, the president, supports a $15 minimum wage when you, the president, did everything you could to run cover and to BS people about a fucking Senate parliamentarian that nobody ever even heard of. Who ever heard of a Senate parliamentarian before this Joe Biden presidency? Nobody was talking about a Senate parliamentarian setting rules about Trump when he was about to give, when he gave a $6 trillion tax cut to the richest people in this country. Nobody was talking about a Senate parliamentarian then. In this idea that one member of Congress, one member of your party can somehow stop you. No, I'm sorry. You, the president, have all the ability to go and to campaign and to use your bully pulpit to go and to speak out against them. And then who the hell? They're going to have to toe the line. Whatever policy you see being enacted, that is 100% the policy that Joe Biden supports. So to give him any kind of cover is so gross and just pathetic. And Bernie doing this it hurts so much because it was we the people that put Bernie where he really was today. It was through our grassroots donations and our volunteer work that we all did. And we went out there. I traveled from, Massachusetts to New Hampshire to go knock on doors every weekend, and I'm one black dude, all these white folks in New Hampshire. And I'm just, I'm having to go there and out of my comfort zone and to do this for Bernie or whatever. And it's like, it's for you to turn around and then to just completely lose all sense of urgency now that Joe Biden is president. All of a sudden, it hurts. It really does hurt.
Bernie's back at
to
brunch.
see it happen.
Yeah, I think that what you said is accurate, Kahmali, that he's lost his sense of urgency. And again, we have given him credit for, to what extent he has played the inside game effectively. Obviously, I'd rather him be the Senate budget chairman than like some other corporate Democrat, or God forbid, Lindsey Graham, who would have, he would have had that role had the Democrats not won the Senate. So, by no means am I trying to be unrealistic or naive or just a reactionary or whatever. But it's undeniable that, this is not the Bernie Sanders that I also, campaigned and voted for and was so inspired by, not the Bernie Sanders that was literally waging a political revolution in his own words against the Democratic establishment as represented by characters like Joe Biden, or at least so we all thought. I always thought it was kind of crazy that he didn't go harder on Joe Biden during the primary, given that it was obvious that he was the one true threat. I mean, I guess it wasn't obvious. It's not like I was calling that at the time either, but, it seems obvious in retrospect. And, given how fiery his, run against Hillary Clinton was and all that, it just blows my mind that he doesn't seem to mount the same kind of energy against Biden, who, again, is this neoliberal ghoul. Did a couple good things when he came into office. Obviously, we gave him credit for that. But now is not the time to be, like avoiding tough questions. Now is the time to be holding this guy to account. I think that Brian actually makes a really good point here. Thanks for the super chat. Why won't he hold Biden accountable on the eviction moratorium? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why are you not using your power in this sense? You're so popular for the longest time, and still arguably you're the leader of the left. Why are you not bringing attention to this issue? Why are you not organizing on behalf of all of these people that are about to be evicted? Why are you not calling out Joe Biden when he unilaterally removed cannabis or legalizing cannabis from the Democratic Party platform? People don't talk about that enough, but all the other Democrats were on board with that policy. Literally all of them. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, John Delaney, Pete Buttigieg, every single Democrat was on board with legalizing cannabis. That was like a bare minimum position. One of the actual reasons why it would be worth voting Democrat over Republican. Usually it's like, why even vote Democrat? That was actually a reason until Joe Biden came along and took it out of the party platform unilaterally because he's a fucking ancient boomer drug warrior that hates black people apparently and wants to continue his drug war. So why is Bernie why did he not have a single peep on that? Why did the squad not have a single peep on that? I thought that you guys said we were going to have to push Biden left. I thought that's why we were supposed to fucking vote for Biden, because then the next move was to push him left. That's not fucking happening. And it's insane that anyone thinks that this is acceptable behavior from the so-called leaders of the insurgent, progressive left. And I think that another thanks for the super chat, by the way, Johnny. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I love Bernie too, but he looks weak as fuck in that interview. But yeah, I think something else that is really relevant to this point. This news broke the other day. Pro Sanders group, Our Revolution. I'm sure you guys all knew it. It's rebranding into Pragmatic Progressive. So yeah, no more talk of this revolution. Let's be serious. Let's be serious. And it says, stinging from the disappointment of Bernie Sanders' loss in 2016, supporters pumped millions of dollars into the powerful advocacy group Our Revolution. That's right. People dumped millions of dollars into a group which was purporting to be a revolutionary political organization, not pragmatic progressives designed to fucking boast the more modest alternatives endorsed by Joe Biden, expanding eligibility for Medicare program. This is the kind of bullshit, mealy-mouthed centrism that everyone that supported Bernie Sanders was railing against in the primary. The kind of proposals that Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, these people were fucking railing against why these are so ineffectual, why they're not up to snuff, why it's unacceptable to fucking subject the American people to this fucking means-tested garbage. And now we're going to turn around and act like this is what's realistic, so we just have to settle for it while people are about to be evicted, while people don't have health care, people are in jail and fucking rotting in prison. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. And again, I don't want to come off as totally naive. I get that Bernie is doing good things in his role, and he's clearly lost in the sauce of the establishment politics and thinks he's, making the most difference he can in the way that he can. So I get it, but it's supremely disappointing.
It was also condescending as shit to have him be like, "What? Look, Krystal, listen to me. You don't understand how it works. This is not United States Senator. You don't understand. You little girl, you little petulant child over here. Like, what the fuck, Bernie Sanders? You egalitarian, you fucking comrade Sanders. Get the fuck away from me with that kind of rhetoric. People who've watched this podcast know there's one thing that triggers me like beyond belief, and that's like condescension. And that's the vibe I got. Like he was trying to pull the I'm a United States Senator. Like, who cares, dude? You work for us. You're a fucking servant of the people. You know what I mean? So I hated that he was trying to like big timer like that. And we can get into the Kyle stuff also, because that was another big timer move. Unless you're Bernie Sanders, they're going to tell you to go fuck yourself with a request like, "Oh, I only want to talk to one of you on your podcast." Like, that shit is fucked up. But the back to the Our Revolution thing that I think is completely crazy and antithetical to everything that Bernie Sanders ran on is that sounds like the kind of shit that Elizabeth Warren should be up to after this fucking election is over, right? Like why are we not seeing like all of Elizabeth Warren supporters being the pragmatic progressives? At least that's something that I could like rationalize in my head, right? A bunch of people that I have really good intentions, but just think that the Bernie guys are mean or whatever. Fine, you guys go fucking do that. I thought the serious leftists were out here fucking pushing our agenda. We were out here in the streets. I thought we were saying, hey, you've had time's up. You know what I'm saying? So this is bullshit, and it's just capitulation.
Yeah, it is. It is. And one other thing I want to spotlight on this interview in specific before we move on to our next story is the fact that some of you guys might have noticed that Kyle Kulinski was noticeably absent from his own podcast. That's right. Bernie was on Krystal Kyle and Friends, and Kyle was nowhere to be found. It was just Crystal Ball. That made a lot of people wonder as to what exactly happened. Obviously, Kyle Kulinski was one of Bernie's biggest supporters. Always a big Bernie bro, kind of the king of Bernie bros, honestly. So it's like, why was he not here? Anyway, this information came out last night. A couple people sent me this. A lot of people thought it was fairly amusing, I guess. And it looks like Kyle Kulinski was not given access to interview Bernie Sanders on his own show. This is a quote from the new episode. Kyle says, "This episode is a little bittersweet for me. I love the fact that you, Krystal, got to talk to Bernie, and I have full faith and confidence in your abilities. I know you're going to do an amazing job, but I'm not in this interview. And there's a reason why I'm not in this interview. They reached out to you and basically said, yeah, we'll do an interview under the condition that it's only you. Am I butthurt over this? Yes, I'm a little butthurt over this. I supported Bernie more than anyone in 2016, more than anyone in 2020. I got him on Joe Rogan. I'm the one who set that all up. So to sort of be thrown under the bus in a way, for him to just be like, I'm going to kick you off your own show, that stung. I didn't like that. Maybe it's because I called him a cuck repeatedly, if he saw that, but I kind of doubt it. And I think this is actually, I have to be honest, I feel kind of bad on Kyle's behalf. Again, this is someone that did a lot of work for Bernie Sanders, obviously unofficially. It's not like he was on his fucking payroll, but I think it's fair to say that Kyle Kulinski probably rallied up a lot of votes for Bernie Sanders, probably educated a lot of people online as to why they should vote for Bernie Sanders, why it was worth, campaigning for this political revolution, explaining the necessity of policies like Medicare for all to laymen's like me in 2015 and 2016 that, kind of sort of understood leftism, but needed people like Kyle to really explain to me and walk me through why these policies were necessary over other policies that other, charlatan candidates like Pete Buttigieg were trying to push on us. So I just think this is yet another example, unfortunately, of Bernie kind of like giving the middle finger to the people that really got him where he is. And again, I'm not trying to be too harsh on Bernie. This is not like a fuck Bernie podcast. Like generally, I think that people are over the top when they criticize Bernie Sanders a lot. I think he is doing a lot of good work. So again, I want to be nuanced here, but this is a pattern. Like again, I don't love Cenk Uygur. You guys know if you watch this show, I fucking hate the guy. But I did think it was kind of gross when Bernie Sanders endorsed and then unendorsed Cenk Uygur for his congressional campaign after Cenk had admittedly spent a lot of time, again, supporting Bernie, spreading the message of Bernie Sanders, talking about him, raising money for him. And that's not it. Bernie threw under the bus Zephyr Teachout, his own surrogate, among many other people that had done so much work for him, but then I guess crossed him or said something he didn't like. And then it's just like they get thrown out. So I don't know what your guys' take on this was. I guess one thing I did think was kind of weird about it was that, why didn't they just do it as a breaking point segment then? If it wasn't going to be with Kyle, why even do it in the Kyle Krystal studio? Why not just do it as a solo interview on breaking points like they do sometimes? But I really don't know. It's interesting. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, really quick before I pass the torch to Kahmali, just on the Zephyr Teachout thing. This is something I actually just learned listening to Bad Faith, actually. She actually got permission from all of the press people to write that Joe Biden is corrupt piece in The Guardian. They actually approved it through all the internal organs. They were like, yeah, publish this. This is great. And then after that, after she did literally everything that she was supposed to, Bernie was like, this is unacceptable. Joe Biden is not corrupt. She needs to apologize. You know what I would have said to Bernie Sanders? Fuck you. And I will write in any goddamn paper, fuck you, Bernie Sanders now. Ha ha, eat shit.
Yeah, Zac just stole my line because that's all I got. You know, what I got to say to Bernie is fuck Bernie. Like, fuck you, fuck Bernie. Like, this is, you know, Gavin's being very nice here, very diplomatic, and that's good. You know, that's very kind of him. But I think that I've lost all tolerance that I have for Bernie Sanders at this stage. I think that he is he's controlled opposition at this point. You know, that's all that he serves to be. And he's there for he absorbs and he soaks up so much of the attention and the funding from the left and people that are fed up with the establishment and the system that they've put in place here. And he takes up so much of that energy in the funding. Honestly, I just looked at the numbers for his 2020 campaign. He raised over $200 million, over 120 million, 110 million of it was from small dollar donations. But somebody like me is not considered a small dollar donor just because I donated $50 a week. $50 a month for like the entirety of his campaign. Technically, I'm not considered a small dollar donor anymore. But it's, so I think a large proportion of his, big dollar donations are actually from small dollar donors that just happen to donate over the $200 threshold because they supported that shit so much. And I did that while unemployed and struggling. I'm running up against the unemployment cliff that's about to happen on September 4th. Like, my whole life is based around September 4th at this point, because once that happens, I got no savings. I got nothing. I'm housing insecure, and my income, it just falls off a cliff. And so, for Bernie Sanders to take that money, I thought that I was investing. I used to say that's what I'm investing in, instead of putting my money in things like the stock market or whatever else. It's like, that's what I considered an investment, and I expected a return on my investment. And we've gotten nothing really from him. We've gotten excuses for Joe Biden and him running cover for Joe Biden, who has, he talks about, how Joe Biden, is trying to do what he can to support, and how he's against mass incarceration. But it's like, he created this problem, and all we're asking him to do is to fix the problem he created. And that's the absolute bare minimum. And he can't even do that with the wave of his pen. He could just decriminalize, cannabis. He should be decriminalizing all drugs at this point. We should be talking
legalize cannabis straight up.
Legalize. Exactly. Yeah. He could straight up legalize it. It's like, we should be talking about legalizing all recreational drugs in this country, start to treat it like a health, issue instead of like a criminal issue. He could wipe away student debt, and he chooses every day not to do that. And the thing about Biden is that even a $15 minimum wage, we got to stop talking about 15 at this point. The reality is it should look something more like, if you look at what the National Low Income Housing Association does, this thing where they do this analysis of all the states, and they put this really nice map together where you can see for every state what would your wage have to be, your hourly wage, in order to support a person to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment at just average market value, right? So what's the average wages? And where I live in the state of Massachusetts, where we have I think our minimum wage is on its way to being increased up to $15 an hour. Slowly, we're at like $12.50 right now. The minimum wage that you would need to be making to afford a 2-bedroom in Massachusetts is $36 an hour. So this idea of talking about 15 can't even cover it in Oklahoma. You can't even afford a 2-bedroom in Oklahoma for $15. It takes almost $17 in Oklahoma right now to afford that. So nowhere, we got to be, the left, we got to start talking about
middle America guys. And it's crazy, because anytime Gavin and I think about leaving Kansas City, we're just like, our mind is blown. It would just, all of our resources would just go to housing. Actually, speaking of Boston, my sister just moved to Boston for she's working on a campaign there, and it is astronomically expensive to live in Boston. And I know so many people who live in these cities that are big, they get so used to the cost of housing being half of your income, 3/4 of your income. You're living with 4 people you don't know, and you're still spending all of your money on rent. That shit is crazy, and that should not be the normal, and that should be considered unacceptable in our society. And before we get too far away from the Bernie thing, the one other thing I just had to say about Kyle and Bernie is that and this is a broader point. Obviously, Bernie is embodying it, and that makes me upset, because I've been so moved to this movement by Bernie, and we've said it a bunch of times. He continuously disappoints us and all this kind of shit, right? But the fact of the matter is the fact that he wouldn't even talk to Kyle Kulinski Kulinski just shows the fact that even the leftist candidates, even these progressive candidates that we get into Congress, it's like, fuck you as soon as we get in there. You guys carried us in there. Now we're only dealing with the corporate people. Now we're only dealing with people who are professionals at this shit. And you know what professional means? It means paid for by somebody who has to sell advertisements. So guess what? That means, oh, you have to stay within the realm of reason.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And also something when we're talking about Kyle Kulinski that this interview reminded me of when she was asking him, like, well, why aren't you doing anything about legalizing cannabis? Why aren't you trying to push Biden to cancel student loan debt? Why are you trying to get him to do the things that he actually can do just with a stroke of his pen? Like you said, Kahmali, that he chooses not to do every morning when he wakes up. And that actually reminded me of something that Kyle was actually really pushing for during the primary when it was still going on, right as Bernie was dropping out. He was saying, you know, if Bernie's going to drop out, then he should at least get some concessions. Like he should at least, you know, draw up a list of 3, 4, 5 things and try to get Biden to, you know, promise him and the nation and all of his supporters that he's going to do these, you know, 5 things in order to earn Bernie Sanders' endorsement. And along with him, the votes of this massive movement. You know, half the country didn't even get a vote for Bernie in 2020 because he dropped out so early. So all of those people, you know, ended up probably voting for Biden because Bernie endorsed Biden, but they didn't get anything for it. They literally got nothing for it. And those are the things he should have asked for. He should have asked for, you know, you have to legalize cannabis to get my endorsement. I'm not going to endorse someone that's going to continue the drug war. I simply can't do that. I mean, I couldn't vote for someone that I knew was going to continue the drug war. I wouldn't endorse him either. You know, Bernie could have said, you have to cancel the student loan debt, man. You're going to have to cancel the student loan debt to get my endorsement and all my supporters. He fucking didn't do it. He didn't ask for anything. And I guess that's what pisses me off most. Cause like, you know, there were things that Bernie could have done.